They say the dead don't speak, but in New Orleans, they do. If you listen closely, you can hear them. Cries woven between the laughter of children, whispers carried through the melodies of festivals, secrets echoing between the beats of a second line drum, slipping through the notes of a saxophone, stories buried beneath the beauty, hidden beneath the celebrations, because we don't even know they're there. Beneath the joy and rhythm of the city lies a forgotten history. As I sit here on this train, so many thoughts come to mind. City Park has always been a special place to me. There's always been something here, something I could feel but never quite explain. Maybe it's the way the trees seem to touch each other, their branches stretching like old friends whispering secrets. Maybe it's the moss hanging down like it's trying to hide something, or the way the sunlight dances between the leaves like it's trying to tell me a story. But this place is more than just a park. City Park is one of the largest urban parks in the United States, bigger than Central Park in New York City. It's a place of beauty, yes, but beneath that beauty, there's something else, something buried, something forgotten. For years, I felt a connection to this place that I couldn't explain. Every time I looked at these trees, there was this heavy feeling. I used to tell my best friend, I don't know, but something about these trees feel different. Sometimes I thought maybe I was hung here, or maybe someone I loved was in a past life, because I could never shake that heavy feeling. It was like I was always drawn to these trees, staring at them, feeling them. It was heavy, but it was also peaceful. It's kind of hard to explain. And I thought I was just in my imagination, thinking I was tripping, but I wasn't. What I discovered recently is that City Park wasn't always a park. This land was once 14 different plantations. That's 14 separate plantations of women, men, and children who lived, worked, and suffered. And one of those plantations was called the Duguay Plantation. And I know you're probably thinking, who is Duguay? Same thing I asked. But here's the twist. My last name is Duguay. I never knew this. Well, I knew my last name was Duguay, but I didn't know the history. And I could bet half of my family didn't know it either. But were we enslaved here? Like, what's the connection? I don't know. And it opens up so many questions that I hope to one day have answers to. But now it makes sense. And one thing I don't know for sure is what type of plantation this was. But due to Louisiana's climate and conditions, most plantations here were sugar plantations, and sugar was brutal. Sugarcane plantations were some of the most deadly places for a slave. The average lifespan of a slave on a sugar plantation was just 10 years. 10 years of back-breaking labor, of heat, of danger, of death. Whether if it was sugar or cotton, these are still the stories of 14 different plantations and so many lives crying for their stories to be told. You see these trees? They've witnessed so much. They're known as the Dueling Oaks, a place where men fought, sometimes to death, a place of violence and lost lives. And right here beneath these trees, one of the plantation owners found so much peace that he asked to be buried here. But years later, during a renovation, they tried to find his remains to preserve them, and they were gone. Now, New Orleans is one of the most haunted cities in the country, so you can do with that information what you wish. But the real story isn't about the owners. It's about the slaves who were forced to live and die here. And those people, they weren't given proper burials. They were buried right here, on the land they worked, which means that beneath the beauty of City Park are graves. Graves of men, women, and children who were never given a chance to be remembered. And the strange thing is, if you try to Google some of this information, it's hit or miss. Sometimes you find it, sometimes you don't. If it wasn't for the work of Kaylee Dutra with the Descendants Project, who did a dissertation on the enslaved people of City Park, so much of this history would have been lost. Her work pieced together stories that were scattered, buried, and nearly erased. It takes puzzle pieces, one story here, another story there, piecing them together to make sense of it. But that's our history. We are the only group of people in this country who have to search for our own story like this. Other people can just trace a line on the family tree, follow a name, connect the dots, but ours doesn't work like that. Our history is scattered. It's whispered, buried, erased, rewritten. It's not given to us. We have to dig for it. But this is New Orleans. No other city carries history in its bones and culture in its soul quite like this. A place where the rhythm of a second line can dance on the graves of the forgotten. A place where joy and pain live side by side. where the beauty of this city was built on the suffering of those who came before. They'll rebrand it, they'll rebuild it. They'll tell you about the beautiful lilies, the grand oaks, and the charming trails. They'll talk about the festivals, the laughter, and the light, and they'll whitewash the rest, erase the stories of those who bled, worked, and suffered here. But remember, at the end of the day, what's important are all the stories that are missing. That's why we tell them. That's why we share them. We have to pass them on to our kids because that's how we keep them alive. And that's why this page is so important. So make sure you like, comment, and share because that helps the algorithm. And it means more people get to learn the stories that they won't put in your textbook. How many more stories like this are buried beneath our feet, just waiting to be told? And I can't wait for you to hear all the other stories I found. Y'all remember to subscribe. Peace.